See, as American Christians, we've come to know that when we talk about Christmas, we can be talking about one of two different things, depending on the context. On one hand, we have the Christmas of culture. This is a season that begins, allegedly, the day after Thanksgiving, though it seems like this year began somewhere around Labor Day. This season is characterized by shopping for presents, by gift exchanges, by all kinds of parties. Ugly sweater parties, white elephant parties, you name it, parties. The Christmas of culture builds throughout its season. It builds and develops and forms a crescendo reached in the wee hours of Christmas Day, in a flurry of torn wrapping paper, ripped open boxes, and far too many pictures taken of you in pajamas with sleep-wrecked hair. See, we think of our favorite Christmas movies like mine, A Christmas Story, or Home Alone, or insert your favorite here. Almost all of them end with Christmas. So we see in the Christmas of our culture that Christmas is the end of a season. But on the other hand, there's the Christmas of the faith. See, this is a religious time that sees tonight not as the beginning of the end, rather Christmas Day becomes a beginning. It's not the climax of the season, it's the kickoff, the starting point, the event that begins our journey to Easter. Now, this is not a conversation on which Christmas is the right Christmas or anything like that. This is simply an acknowledgement of the world in which we live, and also as a point of clarification. See, the question for us is, what is Christmas? What is Christmas? Now, I ask this not because of some cliche notion of needing to, for us to recapture the true meaning of Christmas or whatever. You're not going to hear any, reason of the season stuff here tonight. I ask this because we live in a world where Christmas is talked about a lot, where we've heard that there's a supposed war having been declared on Christmas. And I bring this up because one cannot fight a war without knowing what it is they're fighting about. And I'm not convinced that anyone really knows what Christmas is all about if they're fighting a war over it. Because if we really would know what Christmas is all about, we would know that Christmas has absolutely nothing to do with war. And besides, Christmas doesn't need defending for that matter. Christmas is a celebration. It's a celebration, and I argue that it's a celebration of something that we did not know we wanted. It is a celebration of something that we did not know we wanted. This idea comes to me a few weeks ago. I was reading an article about Apple, the technology company, Apple. I'm young, I have a beard, I like Apple products. I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, I have a Mac, I used to have a laptop, Mac laptop, I'm that guy. I'm that guy. See, the article that I read hypothesized that Apple's success lies in the uncanny ability of the company. Maybe it could have also just been Steve Jobs, but in the uncanny ability of that company to release products that we did not know we wanted. You think about smartphones. Smartphones existed years before the iPhone ever came out. There was BlackBerry, but it wasn't the cultural phenomenon that it became until Apple released the iPhone. And then suddenly we all had to have smartphones. Our world was transformed by that product. Tablet computers existed for a long time. There were tablet computers around when I was in high school. But tablet computers did not become a necessary thing until Apple released the iPad. And confession, I'm using one. See, they released products that we did not know we wanted, and suddenly our world became remade around that idea. We weren't demanding these things. We weren't saying, I really wish somebody would make this. Rather, it was made, and we accepted it, and here we are. Similar to this is a thought from last year's Christmas. My mom has this belief that everyone should receive a toy on Christmas morning. Kind of that inner child connection. And so last year, as sort of a one-off gag thing, my mom bought for Kana, my wife and I, really cheap art radio-controlled cars. Just a really silly gift. They lit up. It was just kind of a fun thing. And we laughed like, we got toys, whatever. The thing is later that night, we're all sitting around, and I decided to break out the radio-controlled car, put the batteries in it, take it outside into our patio, and chase the cats in the neighborhood with it. And I found that I had a ton of fun. And the funny thing is this stupid little present, I remember more than anything else I got for Christmas that year. Because it was, it's something that I didn't know I wanted, but I wound up enjoying it. The theologian Stanley Hauerwas talks about this when he talks about the Christian faith, and he tells another Christmas story. He tells a story of a kid who, for Christmas, wanted a bicycle. And he got his bicycle, but he also got a chemistry set. Now, he was excited about the bicycle, kind of thought the chemistry set was a little lame. The chemistry set kind of sat in the corner for a few weeks and collected dust. But then one day the kid got a little bored and he broke out the chemistry set. Started reading the instructions, started finding out that he could blow stuff up. It became very exciting for him. And it began a lifelong passion for chemistry. And this kid became a chemist. This present that he didn't think he wanted, that he thought was lame when he got it, wound up being the thing that he really did want. See, I mentioned all of this simply to say for centuries, we thought we knew what we wanted in a Messiah. We had our ideas of what the Messiah was supposed to be. If we read through the prophecies in the Old Testament, if we read some of the religious writings from that time, we get a sense that the Messiah was going to be a conqueror. We had this whole idea of a Superman type figure, a William Wallace type figure, riding in on a steed, sword held aloft, conquering the world in the name of God, and we would be able to find triumph in that. We would win. It was victory, and that's what it was all about. See, we like this image, I think. I think this kind of strokes our ego. Lynn Jones, who was a parishioner here and was ordained out of here, was a priest at a church that I grew up in, and she once said in a sermon that we like this image because it allows us to vicariously live through it. We get to live through the triumphant warrior Christ because it affirms us. It makes us feel good and right, and we love that. But on that first Christmas day when this Messiah was born, we got something very, very different. We didn't get a warrior Christ. We didn't get this conquering, heroic figure. Instead, we got a baby. We got a baby. In fact, we got God in diapers. God in diapers. It's kind of a silly notion, but that's what we got. Now, this baby does not mean that Jesus is not a Messiah who triumphs over the powers of this world. On the contrary, this babe, this son of Mary, conquers the world by disarming the world. God triumphs by humbling God's self, by emptying himself and becoming the least of us. And it's important for us to remember that this did not begin on Christmas Day. Tonight, we don't celebrate the beginning of God's incarnation. See, the incarnation happened months ago, if we're going to use this Christmas Day as the birth date of Jesus. The incarnation began as it was at conception. I mean, think about this incredible mystery. God formed in a woman's womb. He began as a blastocyst and developed into what we call a fetus. He formed limbs, he formed eyes, he shifted around and kicked Mary's insides. He caused her to get tired and gain weight and become hungry with odd cravings. All of these things that Cana, my wife, is going through, all of these things that every mother has gone through, God did. God went through all of this in order to be intimately acquainted with us. As St. Athanasius famously said, God became man so that man might become God. By the miracle of discovering God in diapers, we learned, we witnessed that God had become us. It was God's first overt, wanton declaration that there was going to be nothing, absolutely nothing, getting in the way of God and us. As a famous passage in Romans, Paul says, I'm convinced that neither height nor depth, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor life, nor death, nothing is able to separate us from the love of God. By becoming one of us, God blurred the lines between earth and heaven. Now, I talked about this being the thing that we didn't know we wanted. So how do I know? How do I know that this is something that we even want? Because I look at the way humans resonate with certain spiritual people. Right now, I look at the way that people resonate with Pope Francis. See, the crazy thing to me about Pope Francis is, I'm 31 years old, I frequent the internet, I'm on message boards a lot. I've gotten to know a lot of young atheists, and even young atheists are finding something profound and powerful in this man. And the thing is he's not doing anything radically new in the sense of he's not inventing anything, he's simply imitating Jesus. And that's a crazy thing. He's maybe the most powerful Christian on earth, and he's not treating that as something to be lorded about. He's instead cavorting with the poor and the disfigured, just like Jesus. And people are finding in that something profoundly deep. People who have what we would say no faith are even finding resonance in that. But this sort of thing is not exclusive to the Pope. God wearing diapers, like the rest of us, points us to the fact that every one of us can do the same. We can live that same example. We can imitate Jesus because God, through Jesus, first imitated us. And in imitating Jesus, we too become a gift that this world didn't realize that it wanted. So tonight, we join shepherds and barn animals as we come to this manger. And there we find Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. We find the lines redrawn, the boundaries blurred. God is now among us. God is now us. And we go forth, disarmed, wanting what we've received, and we carry that gift in ourselves for the transforming of the world.